I'm pleased to say we are joined by Deepak Krishnan, who is Associate Director of Energy of WRI India, and he joins us live from Bangalore. Thank you for joining us today. Well, much has been written as to whether or not climate change, the pollution and the impact on the climate is responsible for some of the wacky weather, if we can call it, that we've seen all around the world. And the pictures we've seen just in the floodings from India are absolutely devastating. Our hearts go out to the people there affected. But whether or not it is part of the causation here, I just want to get your view, Deepak, on what the situation is in India more broadly when it comes to the pollution and how you balance the need to really tackle climate change with taking care of the energy needs that the country faces.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And it's a very pertinent question. And India is trying to balance the two issues. One is we have about 240 million people who don't have access to electricity. So any amount of electricity that we can pump into the grid is critical. But at the same time, the country is also cognizant of the need to, stick to environmental norms. There are other challenges related to water. So hence, there are different tracks which are in progress. One is the massive renewable energy commitments that have been announced by the government. And at the same time, we also are looking at electric vehicles and other related aspects to weanness of the oil dependency. But as you said, it is a complex exercise, and there is no real example that we can follow. So it's something we need to figure out on our own and try to make the best out of it.
And Deepak, oil dependency is one issue, but when you talk about the push toward electric vehicles, it's not just India. We're seeing this push around the world, in fact. But many have been quick to point out that until you have a clean source of energy, some of the benefits of EVs are really moot, because the fact is that coal power plants still do provide the source of some of this energy. Can you give us a better idea of just how prominent coal still is in India and the efforts in which the government is trying to transition out of coal?
Absolutely. So coal is a mainstay, and about 70 to 80% of the country's electricity comes from coal. And as you rightly said, until the grid is cleaned up with more renewables, having electricity vehicle is just shifting the pollutions from the tailpipe to the plant emission chimney. So in this regard, India has commenced on its massive renewable energy commitments. And as on today, if you see, we are at about 70 gigawatts of renewables. The pace could be faster, yes. We have 175 to reach by 2022, and we only have 4 years in which to do that. And post that, there is a larger goal that we have committed to in the Paris NDC of having 40% of our installed capacity come from renewables. So efforts are on, but there are multiple challenges like the distribution companies' financial problems, then whether the grid is modern enough and can it be quickly be made modern enough to take in all the renewables that are coming in. And even with electric vehicles, for instance, we have the situation of planning the grid charging infrastructure around the city. How does one go about that? How do you empower the municipalities, get the electric utility also to work with them in parallel? And to add to that, we also have issues related to water, which you raised at the beginning of the segment, with about 40% of the country's thermal capacity located in water-stressed areas. So that's another big challenge. And lastly, when talking about pollution, as per the Ministry of Environment's mandate, all power plants were to comply with cleaner norms by the end of December 2017. But due to cost considerations, that target has been pushed to 2022. So yes, much more can be done, but there is some progress definitely.
And Deepak, when we talk about the viability of these renewable sources, though, I mean, do you think the infrastructure of the country is allowing for them to be really economically viable? Because you talk about the vast numbers of people who still need access to power, to electricity, and many are wondering whether or not that can be supplied with renewables.
So if you just take renewables by themselves, their capacity utilization factor is much less than thermal power plants. So, an equivalent capacity of renewables will not supply the same amount of electricity of a thermal plant. Yes, but that means we need more renewables. whether it is decentralized or connected to the grid, that's immaterial. And I think efforts are on in both directions. The government also has come out with its mini grid policy, and on the on-grid side, you know the story about the auctions and the prices that are constantly coming down. And at the same time, the regulators and the system operators are also working towards creating these real-time markets so that as much of these renewables can be dispatched as possible. We are also trying to build in flexibility on the thermal side with more gas. We are also looking at flexible coal plants. So efforts are definitely on.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.